what is going on? She's just deleted her Twitter. She's getting called out because it was exposed, because an interview got brought.
The president of the Indiana Fever is in disarray after Caitlin Clark publicly criticized her. Fans are shocked by what transpired on live television. At this point, the criticism is growing and becoming worse every second.
I'm not joking when I say this. Something's gone weirdly wrong. Like, we literally hired a freaking chronically online GM.
But hold on, this is far more than a single press conference or popular video. Behind the scenes, a great deal more is going on. I also have all the details.
I have said before, and I will say it again, Stephanie White, Amber Cox, Kelly Crosscroft, the Indiana Fever president, they were not ready. Now, Christine Brennan in her book confirmed the WNBA and the Indiana Fever did not realize what they were about to get themselves into with drafting Caitlin Clark, because the popularity they weren't prepared for, it didn't see.
Behind the scenes at the Indiana Fever organization, things just got ugly. Additionally, Caitlin Clark supporters are making sure that it is acknowledged. The president of her own team is now criticizing the rookie who has been selling out arenas and making every Fever game a national event. Yes, exactly. Fans were shocked by Kelly Crosscroft's utterly untrue remark. She stated, "We want the Fever to be like Apple," but the way it came across, it sounded like she was calling Caitlin the iPhone accessory instead of the iPhone itself. Discuss tone deafness. Let's face it, this club is only in the news because of Clark. She is the reason that national networks are attending Fever games, shirts are flying off the racks, and ticket sales are soaring. However, the front office seems more concerned with downplaying her importance than with admitting that. The fans weren't silent. Social media erupted, denouncing the comment as blatantly disrespectful. Crosscroft disappeared just as the tension began to rise. Her former account vanished in an instant. Nothing, no explanation, no apology. It seemed like a quiet confession of guilt, as if she believed that shutting down would put out the conflagration. However, that vessel has set sail. Both Caitlin Clark supporters and the internet never forget.
Yes, Stephanie White, every single solitary move that you make is going to be scrutinized. Welcome to it. Right here.
When someone disappears from social media during a controversy, you know the pressure is serious. Kelly Crosscroft, the president of the Indiana Fever, did just that after her now famous remark about Apple went viral online, and not in a positive way. Caitlin Clark's supporters exploded on X as soon as the video began making the rounds, denouncing Crosscroft for attempting to minimize the WNBA's brightest star to a cliched business comparison. Clark is more than just one more component. She is the force behind the national buzz, ticket sales, and ratings. Fans weren't going to overlook that either. Crosscroft's account had vanished entirely by Friday evening. No explanation, no spin, no statement, just gone. And that quiet said 1,000 words. This was more than a PR gaffe. For the very fan base that has supported this franchise through thick and thin, it seemed like a slap in the face. Longtime fans, season ticket buyers, and those who wore Fever gear during losing seasons now feel deceived by the one person who ought to be rooting for their best player. Even worse, the front office had been silent for weeks about Clark's treatment on the court, absorbing hits game after game as the officials turned a blind eye. Even the president of her own team is now unable to adequately recognize her influence without making it all about branding. The supporters weren't duped, and Crosscroft's disappearance just served to validate their worst suspicions that the team's management simply doesn't understand. This is no longer merely poor PR. The Fever's front office just added fuel to the flames, and it's a full-blown crisis of confidence. Sophie Cunningham followed. However, before we discuss that, please click the like button if you believe Caitlin Clark is the target of harassment. If you believe the referees are only acting as though they are unaware of what is taking place, please share your thoughts in the comment section. Naturally, don't forget to subscribe, as this drama is only getting more intense.
As a ref, I know I would mess up all the time.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying that your job is easy, but when it is a simple call right in front of your face multiple times, what are you doing?
San Francisco. Tomorrow, you're on the Las Vegas Strip. What can the Las Vegas expect from Sophie?
You know what? I'm just gonna be me. I don't go in there trying to predetermine anything. I'm dialed in. I need to focus on hitting my shots, making sure I'm executing the schemes right. I'm not focused on the extracurricular activities. And you know what? During that, it was just part of the game. I think the refs had a lot to do with that. It was a build-up for a couple of years now of them just not protecting, the star player of the WNBA. And so at the end of the day, I'm going to protect my teammates. That's what I do. And I'm a team player, so.
It's evident that Sophie Cunningham isn't here to play games. You'll regret it if you call her the unofficial vice president of Try That on Our Court or Caitlin Clark's enforcer, since she just set the league on fire. Sophie went off on the first edition of her podcast, Show Me Something. Pure emotional honesty without any censorship or holding back, more akin to a Netflix tell than a sports podcast. And her deadly message. She wasn't only targeting rivals. She addressed everyone dismissing Caitlin Clark's WNBA influence. "You're literally dumb," she said. 3 times, not once or twice. And the internet exploded. That video quickly went viral on YouTube, X, and TikTok. Sophie understood just how to make it memorable, and it's this week's quote. Don't get it wrong, though. She is a living example. Not long ago, Sophie leveled a Connecticut Sun player after Clark elbowed him in the face. This is the same Sophie. She didn't care that she was kicked out of the game. "I protect my teammates," she said. Period. However, it doesn't end there. Sophie wasn't merely criticizing opponents or incompetent referees. She attacked the Indiana Fever, her own team. She claims that opposition teams aren't the only ones who have been disparaging Caitlin. It originates in the locker room of the Fever. Her podcast felt like a full-fledged declaration of war, according to team members. Fans have been feeling the stress. It's real, not just in their imaginations. The conflict between viral sensations like Clark and WNBA veterans is not limited to the league. Inside Indiana, things are boiling over. And Sophie isn't going to back down. She doesn't mince words. She is here to expose it. And if that means blowing everything up to keep Caitlin safe and change the society, then so be it.
Intentional foul, and it was meant to send a message. It turned into a scuffle, and I don't think anybody wanted that. But the way that the game went and how egregious the referees were and how they were not protecting players, and they especially weren't protecting the #1 player in this league, the biggest draw in this league, which is Caitlin Clark, and they continue to not do that. To me, this was not a dirty play. This was making a statement because the referees didn't do their damn job. This would not have happened at the end of the game if the referees did their job during the first play. If the referees did their job, not just the first play, every single play leading up to that. If the referees had control of the game, that is their only job. The referees' first job, their #1 job, is to protect their players.
I get it to a certain extent, and every rookie coming into the league, that's how you're going to treat them. But
Right.
There's just more.
There's a significant problem going on behind the scenes in Indiana, and it goes beyond locker room tension and gossip. This has escalated into a full-fledged internal conflict. On the one hand, the executives are attempting to transform the Fever into a streamlined, hygienic, and brand-friendly operation. Imagine the atmosphere of an Apple store. Players, supporters, and even opposition coaches, on the other hand, see it for what it is. The brand is Caitlin Clark. For a period. However, this is when things became chilly. Fever. It was President Kristen Bernard, not Kelly Krakow, who made the decision to publicly minimize Clark's impact. At that point, things took a drastic turn. Sophie Cunningham came along and did more than simply push back. She set the entire organization on fire. And don't get me wrong, that tirade in the podcast wasn't spontaneous. According to sources, it was a calculated and direct strategic response to the president's remarks. Sophie didn't merely criticize or disparage the WNBA. She produced the receipts and called out her own front office right away. That goes beyond simple annoyance. That is a complete uprising. She revealed a franchise experiencing an identity crisis. The Fever appear as though they don't even recognize the superstar that is already on their team, despite their stated goal of creating a dynasty. They are treating Caitlin like a liability rather than supporting her. The team as a whole now feels split. While some are stuck clinging to antiquated power structures, others are completely in favor of Clark as the franchise's spokesperson. Here's the problem, though.
It is seen by fans.
Sophie notices. Additionally, Bernard notices anything that might be revealed by that strangely disappeared ex's once Twitter account. Let's be honest, this has evolved beyond basketball.
That we want to sustain the growth and the interest level in the franchise. I mean, this is about the Indiana Fever. Yes, we have a foundational player in Caitlin Clark and Leah Boston, and we're going to continue to add to that. But I want this team to be the leader in the country, and a brand, an enduring brand, like Apple or something. I mean, we have a real opportunity.
Social media would blow up if someone poked them in the eye. ESPN would broadcast it continuously. However, Caitlin Clark receives vicious blows without any rude language, silence, whistling, or fury. Imagine now that Steph Curry is hacked in every game with no defense. Would the NBA simply do nothing? No way. However, Caitlin Clark is experiencing precisely that. She isn't your typical rookie. She is the cause of the current explosion in women's basketball. Everything is focused on her, including the sold-out stadiums and the attendance records. The league's momentum is fueled by Clark. Additionally, she seems to be treated as an afterthought in some way. Sophie Cunningham was forthright. She categorically referred to it as inappropriate. Even coach Stephanie White was unable to remain silent and used a press conference to criticize the officials for letting this behavior go unpunished. Everyone can see what's happening. The players, the media, and the spectators. However, the WNBA remained mute. This is the unpleasant truth. The league would be relocating mountains to keep Clark safe if she were a guy. Rather, she is being flung to the ground as her own front office does little to protect her. Sophie is getting to her feet. Fans are speaking up, but those in positions of authority are too preoccupied with politics to take action. Caitlin Clark represents more than simply the future. The moment is her. However, the leadership of the WNBA is rooted in the past. Additionally, they run the risk of wasting a once-in-a-generation opportunity. This isn't merely a trendy subject. This marks a sea change. The finest way to put was by Sophie Cunningham. Either you and Clark are riding together, or you have no idea what you're doing. And just wait if you thought this was crazy. Everything